All right, good morning, guys. We are out here bright and early before 8 a.m., 7:59, to do a first run in one of the most highly requested shoes, I think, of all time on this channel, right up there with your favorite shoe, the Asics Super Blast, right up there with the Adidas Adios Pro 3, which we got lurking in the corner back here. It is the Saucony Endorphin Elite. Now, over the past week, for some reason, I haven't even been highlighting a ton of the race shoes. I ran in the Alphafly 3, and I did one comparison of the Alphafly 3 and the Sky Paris, but this shoe just keeps coming up on every video. People are recommending it and requesting it, so we finally have it in the house, the Endorphin Elite. This is what I went to the Charlotte Running Company to get yesterday, or 2 days ago, and then I got suckered into buying the Nimbus Mirai for $180. So this is a shoe that people in my demographic, so a lot of taller runners, over 6 foot or bigger, more muscular runners who are putting up sub-3 marathons, absolutely love this thing. So on paper, it has everything that should make it an awesome racing shoe for me, but sometimes things don't quite hit, especially on these first runs, like with that Adios Pro 3, which we have hanging out over there. It wasn't my favorite on the first run. So we're going to do the first run today, overview of the shoe, compare it to some of these other Saucony shoes, and I'm going to let you know my thoughts. I'm super excited. We got some pace on the schedule this morning, so let us get into it, baby. All right, guys, so Saucony Endorphin Elite. Now, all of these brands these days, all these brands out here actually, Nike, Hoka, Adidas, they all have 2 marathon racing shoes. So in the front, this is the Endorphin Pro. We got the Endorphin Pro 3. I actually raced Charlotte 2022 in this guy, and then the Endorphin Pro 4. I did a marathon in training earlier this year in this guy. And the Elite is the more aggressive shoe. So bang, look at that. Man, I wanted to get that slime green colorway, but this is still pretty fire. We got the purple with the red. That is clean. And that's Charlie driving the kids to school. Boom. Yeah, this is definitely a good looking shoe, at least the colorway. The design itself is a little bit funky. People were comparing this to a Dutch clog when it first came out, and I can totally see that. And then you got this cutout here. I think brands are trying to one-up each other these days with the cutouts. You know, Alphafly, the 1 and 2, that was the first shoe to do a lot of weird cutouts. And then you have the 3 here, and Nike actually zagged. You know, everyone's zigging. We're going to add more cutouts. We're zagging. We're going to close up our cutouts, bro. But then, that's what you think, right? Then you take a look at the bottom. You got all these cutouts. That's a holy bottom. Shout out Jesus Christ right there. And then Hoka Cielo X1. Let's take a look at these cutouts. Yeah, bada boom. You got that little, I don't even know, is that a, I don't know what kind of motif that is. And then that 4-foot cutout, that's new, bro. Swag. But yeah, the reason I brought out these 2 shoes right here, not to throw onomatopoeias on the cutouts, it was because these are the other expensive, aggressive, high technology marathon racing shoes. So in the market right now, we're gonna, and I see, I'm gonna use an SAT word, right? We see a bifurcation. So you have shoes like the Alphafly and the Cielo X1 and the Saucony Endorphin Elite at $275 or above. And these shoes offer a little bit of more of an aggressive ride. All of these shoes at $275 have this rockered bottom platform here, so you can see it curves super aggressively in the front. Same thing with the Alphafly. And they all offer one additional piece, at least one additional piece of midsole technology versus the $250 versions of the racing shoes. So in the case of the Alphafly versus the Vaporfly, you get the air units up here, which the Vaporfly doesn't have. You also get a better upper on the Alphafly. And then in the Cielo X1, this is a completely different shoe, but you get a lot more foam. You get a softer foam up here on the top, and you get a way more aggressive rocker. This is essentially an illegal racing shoe because it has so much foam. It's above the World Athletic standards for the 40mm stack height for a legal racing shoe, but they did some trickeration to get it to be legal. And then in the Endorphin Elite here, if you take a look at this versus the Pro 4, other than the weird cutouts and this overlay here, it doesn't look to the eye like there's too much different from the Pro 4, but the main difference is the foam. So in the Endorphin Elite here, you have Power Run HG, so it is a super critical EVA. It's supposed to offer more energy return, so be bouncier. I've also heard that it's a little bit firmer than the Power Run PB, and for those of you who might not know, Endorphin Pro 4 here, this is my current favorite marathon racing shoe. I've run 2 marathons this year, one in the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris and the other in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. And the marathon I ran this shoe was during training. And by the way, guys, people were saying, congrats on the Strava PR, bro, when I ran that marathon during training. If you want to run a marathon during training or a half marathon during training, it doesn't have to be a Strava PR. That can count as your PR, baby. We don't need an organized race to validate our achievements, okay? But anyway, I ran 26 miles in this guy during training, 26.3, just to be sure that it did count for my Strava PR. Put some respect on that Strava. And this was comfortable. It didn't feel super fast, and that's why I raced my next marathon in the Sky Paris, because I thought I wanted something that felt super fast. But this felt really comfortable, and for every pace that I did during that marathon, from 7 flat pace down to 6 flat pace, this was the perfect shoe for that. Nice and bouncy, a little bit of a forefoot rocker, and at $225, this is now the same price as some of the high-end training shoes that we're seeing coming out this year, like the Cloud Monster Hyper, the Skyward X, and I don't know, I'd be surprised if the Super Blast 2 doesn't get a little bit of a bump in price, but the Super Blast 1 is at $200 right now. So this is right up there, or right down there with the training shoes, because all the other top-tier racing shoes in this segment, again, $275 or $285 for the Alpha Fly, $275 for the Cielo X1, and then $275 for the Saucony Endorphin Elite here. And so, yes, this is a more aggressive shoe, and maybe it's going to be a little bit faster feeling, but for me right now, the way I'm evaluating these race shoes, especially for the marathon distance, it's not all about how fast does it feel. I'll take a little bit of a heavier shoe, like the Pro 4, over something like the Vaporfly or the Metaspeed Sky Paris, because I like that additional comfort underfoot. And so with this shoe, that's what I'm going to be evaluating. Not just does it feel fast, but how does it feel for long runs? Today we're not doing a long run, but this will get thrown in one of those 20 or 22 mile long runs soon. How does it feel at different paces? Because even if we're going for a sub 3 attempt for some of us, I mean, look what happened at Boston Marathon for a lot of people. They were going for sub 3 or 250 and they came in at 320 or 330. And so if we do have one of those kind of days, and maybe not that much of a blow up, but even if we have to slow down a little bit or go up hills, or you guys know how it can be with the marathon, we want something that feels good for a variety of paces and feels good during training. And that's why I love the Pro 4 as well. This is a super durable franchise, the Endorphin Pro series. My Endorphin Pro 3 here has 300 miles. And, well, the top of it looks absolutely pristine. You could tell me this was a brand new shoe, but on the bottom here, you can see the wear isn't too bad for 300 miles. It's still holding up, and it feels pretty good. I could probably take this to 350. I think the exact mileage count is something like 280 on this guy. So the Endorphin Pro has been a very durable shoe for me. This guy I think has about 50, somewhere between 50 and 70, I believe, maybe between 40 and 70, I'm not exactly sure. And of course we don't see too much wear on it, but the outsole rubber was also really good. And so with the Endorphin Elite, this was released between the Pro 3 and the Pro 4. So they released the Pro 3, and then I think about 3 to 6 months later, they released the Endorphin Elite, and then a few months ago, they released the Pro 4. And so one of the things that they did was they made the Pro 4 here a little bit less aggressive to make more room for the Endorphin Elite. And so the Pro 3 was actually a more aggressive feeling shoe. And maybe, I don't know if we can see it here, but if you take a look at the rockers here, on the Pro 3, you see more of this, more of this aggressive forefoot rocker. Pro 4 is a little bit tamer. You can't really see it on camera, but out there on the run, it's a little bit tamer, it's a little bit softer. It's also a lot more comfortable than the Pro 3, and with that comfort, great for training, great for long runs. So that's a little bit on where the Elite fits in, and the reason why I pulled out the Adios Pro, and the reason why I put it back here is because I don't have a ton of miles in it yet, but this is another shoe that people in my demographic, bigger guys who are running sub 3 or even 4-hour marathons like, I think this is actually preferred a little bit by some bigger runners who aren't going sub 3, but nice and stable, really planted feel, a little bit on the firmer side, but very supportive and comfortable for longer miles. Shout out to my guy, Brendan Wise. I owe you, he's the main reason I got this shoe, and I owe you and some of the others a long run in this shoe soon. I promise I'll do that because I think I'm gonna like it. It just needs to break in. But yeah, of all these race shoes out here, none of the other ones needed a break-in period. This is really the only one. So with the Endorphin Elite, we'll see how it feels out of the box with the firmer foam, but I have heard that it's a little bit on the stiffer and more rigid side, and it really puts you up on your toes. So with that, let's throw it on the scale. We're gonna be quick and efficient this morning. I wanna get some miles in. Let's get it, baby. All right, so weighing the left shoe of the Endorphin Elite, coming in at 221 grams. That is super similar to the Alpha Fly. I think I'm just gonna throw the Alpha Fly on real quick because I think that's almost the same exact weight. 223. Yeah, I'm like the Rain Man out here. I just remember that. But Endorphin Elite, 221. Before I threw it on the scale, I looked at the bottom here and like there's no rubber on the inside. So that's also the thing with these more expensive shoes. They tend to not necessarily be the most durable. It's ironic and it's counterintuitive. And I've seen a few people recently, this new school of thought, saying, hey, maybe it actually makes more sense to pay $225 for the Skyward X or Cloud Monster Hyper. Maybe it makes more sense to pay that $40 premium for the Super Blast or Skyward or Cloud Monster Hyper versus the standard training shoe if we're going to be getting more durability, because the training shoe is where we're going to be getting a lot of miles. With this guy paying the $50 premium over the Endorphin Pro, is it going to give us $50 more performance, or is it going to give us 20% more performance? Probably not, but it is the highest end shoe on the market. It's like what they say about private school: pay more, get less. That's the durability of the Endorphin Elite. So 221, that's right in the center of the market. Just throw the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 on real quick. This guy's a little heavier, 10 grams, not gonna make a huge difference on foot, probably. And then let's see the Cielo X1, this is the black sheep of the racing market, man. This is the most disrespected shoe out there. People say it's not a real race shoe. It's a real race shoe. 271s, yeah, heavy, and that's why they say it's not a real race shoe. But for me, I don't mind the weight of it, and I feel that I get benefit from the shoe, more benefit than harm from the weight. And I'm actually a little surprised at the weight of this, and maybe that's something they'll change in the next version, but only being 10 grams lighter, and weight usually doesn't play a huge difference for me, but only being 10 grams lighter with how minimal they made this upper, there's basically no padding on this thing. There's no structure in the back. I'm not sure where that weight is coming from. I guess the foam is a little bit denser, and yeah, feeling the foam here, it does feel pretty firm and dense. So that's probably where that additional, shout out to Ocho Cinco, got the hands. That's probably where that additional weight is coming from. But let's check the other shoe. Oh, you guys didn't see, but I just swooshed the little shoe insert into the bag. You think I can get the shoe in the bag? No. Brick. Oh, look though. Oh, I would have thrown that out. Shout out Element. Watermelon salt. These things are fire, by the way. Electrolyte. I switched between Noon and this and a few other things, but this one is good. It has a saltier flavor. And if I didn't do that little fake Kobe thing there, I wouldn't have found my Element. All right, let's throw the right shoe on the scale. So the reason I weigh both shoes, 225. By the way, someone asked me last time I was doing the weigh-in, why is the weigh-in section 6 minutes long? Well, guys, I have a secret. If you just want to find the weight of the shoe, you can Google it. But I like to weigh the shoes so we get a little live comparison. You get the insights, you get the analysis. This one is coming in at 225. If we do the math, that's 4 grams heavier than the Endorphin Elite. If you just Google it, you don't get the live math. So the reason I do this, though, is we want to see, are these brands putting out quality products? And it's not necessarily that the difference in weight is going to make a difference out there on the run, but I'm of the mind that if you're shipping out shoes that are hugely different in weight between the pair, you probably have some other things going on behind the scenes that might suggest a lower quality product. So that's why we do it. We want to hold these brands accountable on this channel, baby. And so that's pretty good. 4 grams is not a huge difference. We typically see between 2 and 4% variation, maybe 2 and 5% variation. Yesterday, we weighed the Brooks Goes Max, and they were both 309.5 grams. So shout out Brooks, shout out Warren Buffett. They're putting in work out there in Kansas and Seattle. Is Warren Buffett Kansas? No, Omaha, Nebraska. Warren Buffett driving his Toyota Camry, whipping it. All right, guys, I think we've reached the point where I just need to lace these up. This is getting a little bit ridiculous. Life's so ridiculous, huh? 5-star dishes, different exotic fishes. It's so ridiculous. All right, guys, so plan for the run this morning is 10 miles. We're gonna get a little tempo action in, so dropping the pace down. Marathon race pace, or faster and just letting it fly. You know, I have a goal this block where I want to get a certain number of miles at a below a 6 flat pace. And when I come up with these goals, right, it's all about being accountable to the goals, but also we got to adjust when different things come up. And this week, today actually, is my first day back at my day job. Shout out day jobs, man. Putting in work at that 9 to 5, baby. Let's go. Clocking in, clocking out, hitting that Zoom, hitting that Slack. You know how it is. So that's what it's gonna be today. So you know what? When you have different things coming into your life that might introduce stress, we gotta modify. And so if there's a rule that I put above anything else for running, it is quantity over quality. And when I say that, I mean, if we got life stress coming up, or we get bad sleep, or we missed a meal, quantity over quality, meaning you got a workout on the schedule, you're supposed to do 12 miles with 6 miles at marathon pace, just do 10 miles easy, or 12 miles easy. You were supposed to do a 20-mile long run with 10 miles at race pace, just do a 20-mile relaxed long run. And that was my approach last time around. I rarely miss runs, and if I need to just pull back and relax and cruise, that's what I do. I prioritize the mileage over stressing myself out when we got other things in life. So we're gonna hit this run, we're gonna rip, or we're not gonna rip, I don't know. And then we're gonna come back and check the Slack and hit the Zoom, baby. Let's go. Putting in that work, you know how it is. All right, Endorphin Elite on foot. These things fit like a glove. RIP OJ. They feel really good on foot. I mean, Saucony is a brand where the shoes lengthwise and just the fit in general typically fit my foot really well, and a little bit too well, because I still actually over on this side here have a little bit of a friction point from the Shift 3 and the Speed 3. They fit so well that it's a little bit tight on the left side. But other than that friction point, these things feel amazing. I'll see if they have that friction point here. It seems like they're a little bit snugger, but I don't think it's too bad. And I'm actually noticing we got some weird paint overlap. Talk about QA there. Warren Buffett would not want to buy you, Saucony. I know you're owned by Wolverine Worldwide, though. They don't have to worry. They're already part of a conglomerate, but feels pretty good on foot. Actually, of all the aggressive $275 race shoes, I think this probably feels the most normal to walk in. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Doesn't feel all that different from the Pro 3. Oh, man. Did you guys know that? Brighten this up for you. Let me brighten this up. Did you guys know that slugs like graham crackers? Man, one of the kids must have left a graham cracker, and that slug is just going ham on it. Man. All right, we got to run. See you guys in a bit. All right, guys, boom, getting in those miles before work, 10 miles, average 6:15 pace. I was about 10 seconds per mile slower than last week when I did the same exact workout in the Rocket X2. And it's nothing about the shoes, but I'm telling you guys, the paternity leave ended. I'm a little bit more stressed. Putting in work at that 9 to 5 today, baby. I already told you, let's go, let's get it. Clock in, clock out, hit the Slack, hit the Zoom. But the sleep, a little bit worse last night. Did not sleep as much as I've been getting over the past few weeks. I've been getting 7 to 8, which is just major key, man. Dipping back down to 5 to 6, you're gonna see the performance degrade a little bit. And then the shoes, I don't know, I don't think I have much to do with it, but the stress and the sleep, that's a 10-second per mile penalty right there, anecdotally. But that's what we've got to do as hobby joggers, just execute every day. It doesn't matter. And I didn't push myself to the absolute limit. That's not what it was about. But we got a quality run in. And as I like to say, the body remembers effort, not pace. And we have a beautiful day. So we got to go hit that Slack, check in those messages. But I will tell you right now, that thing is way more comfortable. Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. This thing, woo, man, I don't know. We'll do the breakdown later, but this is a dual character shoe. Above 620 per mile, it felt one way, and then below 620 per mile for me, felt a completely different way. So, hold on, let me check the Slack real quick. I think it's almost time to start the day, for real. All right, guys, I'm gonna pop these off real quick, and then it's almost time for my work day to start. Shout out to everybody out there who's working a 9-to-5 job, putting in work, feeding the family, working towards your goals, whatever those are. If that applies to you, drop me a little axe emoji down in the comments. We got to chop down those trees every day. Just chopping, putting in work. But what I wanted to say before I forget, and we'll do the full breakdown in a sec. Well, for you in a sec. For me, it's probably going to be on the lunch break. But there's 3 ways that I like to evaluate each shoe, whether it's the Nimbus Mirai that we talked about yesterday, or the Nike Invincible 3, or a New Balance Rebel V4, or a racing shoe, whatever it is. How does a shoe live up to what it is setting out to do? So, for example, in this shoe, it wants to be a fast, aggressive racing shoe. That's 1. 2, how does it stack up to other shoes in the market? So, fast, aggressive racing shoe, let's say, yes, it feels fast, it feels aggressive, but number 2, how does it feel against another fast and aggressive racing shoe like, say, the Vaporfly or the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris? And then 3, how does this shoe compare to others on the market? Where does it fit in? Not just as a fast, aggressive racing shoe, but versus the New Balance 1080 V13. Where does it fit in terms of comfort, in terms of feel, in terms of value for the price of, in this case, $275? So that is what we will talk about in a bit. We got to go fire up that old Slack machine, that old Zoom box, and get to work. Hustling, 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 hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Pablo Noriega, a real Noriega, he owe me 100 favors. Good, man. Ready to be back. Yeah, exactly. One weird thing is, for some reason, so I can email IT. It was actually like a full company overview of the 2 new frameworks. I looked through that deck, like doing better in Q1. They're big. I went to a mall one time. It's next to the REI, that's why I went. And is that project still in super secret mode? Or? Okay, cool. Yeah, I never overlapped with her, but I've heard of her. That's cool. Alright guys, lunch break time. Let's get some analysis on the Saucony Endorphin Elite. But before we do that, I gotta throw on my Nimbus Mirai for the walk down there. For the walk down to the podium. This thing, by the way, this thing is the new most comfortable shoe. I absolutely love this. I wore it yesterday for this parent event I had to go to. And this thing is swag and it's super comfy. Nimbus Mirai, man, put some respect on this eco-friendly beast. Shoes just strewn about. Man, it's a little chilly out here. I thought it was warmer. I'm in the shorts. Shorts and the Nimbus Mirai. Look at that thing. For some reason, you know, all these brands, I don't know if they coordinate, but white became the race shoe color of 2024. I think this is my 14th race shoe I've tried, and more than half of them I think are white. It's wild. All right, let's get this analysis in. All right, guys, 10 miles in the Saucony Endorphin Elite in the books, and that was a quality tempo run. I was a little bit down after it because I wasn't ripping as fast as last week in the Hoka Rocket X2, that might be my new favorite short distance speed shoe, but we still put some quality miles in, and I feel like I should maybe be doing a breakdown of the Zoom call because it feels like that was a while ago. But before we get into the Endorphin Elite fully, I wanted to mention and kind of finalize my analysis from yesterday on the Nimbus Mirai. And the last thing that I wanted to say that I wasn't able to say is, how can we actually be more sustainable? And I didn't drive this point home as good as I could. And so yesterday, after the video, I laced up or buttoned up this shirt. And I was thinking, I've had this shirt for probably 12 years. I think my mom bought it for me at Kohl's when I was in high school, or even, I don't even know, something like that. And it's my favorite shirt. And so doing things like wearing the clothes we have in our closet, running in the shoes that we have, and not buying new running shoes when we don't need them, if we care about being sustainable. And I'm not trying to preach. I buy a ton of running shoes and I highlight a ton of running shoes, but driving the same car for more than a year or two, buying used cars, those are all things we could do to be a little bit more sustainable. And that's why the Nimbus Mirai rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, but it's a comfortable shoe for $180. It's expensive, but that's not the point of this video. But I wanted to close it out to let you guys know, non-cynically, my thoughts on what we can do if we want to be a little bit more eco-friendly. Now, Saucony Endorphin Elite here. As I mentioned to you, I like to evaluate shoes in 3 ways. So first, how does it live up to what it's setting out to do? So this wants to be a fast, aggressive race shoe, and I can tell you it feels fast, it feels aggressive, it's lightweight, it feels a lot lighter on foot for some reason than the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. It also feels a lot less comfortable, and I'm really glad that I bought this shoe and ran in it, because it is so different than the Endorphin Pro 4, and it also makes a lot of sense why they have the Endorphin Pro 4 and why they made the Endorphin Pro 4 a lot more comfortable shoe. So this was probably the least comfortable racing shoe that I've tried this year, and maybe one of the least comfortable running shoes that I've ever worn. And it's not about the upper at all. It's about the midsole experience. And I know a lot of people with this shoe had an issue where they feel like it's forcing them to get up on their toes a little bit more and run a little bit more aggressively than they need to. But with this, that's not really the issue that I was experiencing. It's more that the foam in here is extremely firm. It is a stiff, rigid ride, and it's not just that the foam doesn't give me a lot of compression at the slower paces, which it doesn't, but something about the, I don't know if it's the geometry here, it just feels like it doesn't work for me at anything slower than a 630 pace. And so that's that dual character I was telling you earlier, and it's not unique to this shoe. A lot of the other fast, aggressive racing shoes also have that dual character where they feel absolutely horrible for me at a slower than marathon pace. That was like the Sky Paris in particular. Edge Paris was a little bit better maybe, but both of those shoes not great for me at a slower than marathon pace. Vaporfly, same thing, not great for me. But, and now we'll get to the second part of how we want to do the analysis. How does this do versus those shoes versus the category, and specifically the category leaders for fast and aggressive shoes? And I have to say, even though it's an uncomfortable, stiff, rigid ride at those slower paces, the stability in here is much better. And I think that's why this shoe is so loved by bigger runners who are running sub 3 and who are putting up faster paces, because it feels like a shoe, even though it's not that comfortable, that can support my style of running and that can support the way I run. Heel striking, not just heel striking, but having a little bit more of a stable base. That's great for us who need a little bit more support to support our weight or support our power. So I felt that with the width of this shoe, it's not like that Sky Paris, it's not like that Edge Paris where you're getting such a narrow landing platform in the back, in the middle, and you have to really focus on the stride in the front. And that's where I was saying where I didn't feel like it was forcing me to get up on my toes too much. It didn't feel like the shoe made me run in any sort of a different way. It's just that it's not the best shoe for me for slower paces because of the feel of the foam and the plate. And so now I'm realizing, actually, as we're talking, the reason that this shoe probably wasn't 210 grams or 203 grams like I was expecting it to be. I was expecting this, shout out to that guy putting in work, but I was expecting this to be a lot lighter, but I'm realizing they decided not to go the Asics route, because the reason that those Sky and Edge Paris were so light was because they just shaved off so much foam here in the back and here in the heel. And so instead of that, in the Endorphin Elite, you do get that wider base here for more stability. Again, thinking about trade-offs with these shoes, the trade-off is a little bit heavier than the Sky and the Edge, but it's gonna be more stable and more supportive. Yo, shout out to all the grandmas of Mint Hill putting in work. Put some respect on those grandmas. All right, so this is what we have so far, right? Firmer, but fast, more stable, but less comfortable. And the last way that I want to talk about this shoe, the last little frame for the analysis here, this three-parter, is this shoe versus the general market. And so we just talked about how this performs versus some of those category leaders in the fast and aggressive segment versus the general market. This at $275 is an extremely niche racing product. And for me, I don't think that this would be my first choice, at least after today, for any race. I enjoyed the Hoka Rocket X2 in that fast and aggressive segment. I think more than any other of the marathon racing shoes that I've tried, that's probably my top pick. And then even putting this up against the Alpha Fly, and I'll need to do a head-to-head, but I think the Alpha Fly was a little bit more comfortable underfoot for me. It doesn't have as great support out here in the back for heel landing, but just as I was warming up into marathon pace and a little bit slower, I think the Alpha Fly might have a little bit of a smoother, more comfortable feeling. This is just a really firm foam. It's a lot firmer than ZoomX. Even with those air units out in the front, you're gonna get a much firmer ride from the shoe. And so thinking about the general market, and that's why I understand why bigger runners like the shoe. It's not gonna bottom out. It's not gonna feel like ZoomX, which is super soft and squishy. But at the same time, it almost felt like I was running on top of the ground, or because it was just so stiff. It feels like, I don't wanna call it a brick, but it feels like I'm running on top of a really firm foam. So we might need to go up there in the office and do the Durometer test, because I wanna see how firm this foam really is, because underfoot at slower than a 6:30 pace for me, or even slower than a 6:20, it felt extremely firm. So thinking about the general market, if you want a firm racing shoe for fast pace, and I'm not gonna prescribe what pace that is for you, but for me, I had to be below 6:30 100% for this to feel okay. Once I was down at 6:10, it felt pretty solid, and I wasn't thinking about the shoe a ton, which is good, but I did feel like I needed to run a little bit faster to get the most benefit out of this shoe. And so with all the great racing options on the market, this would not be my first choice for most people, at least after today. And these first runs for the race shoes tend to usually be a pretty good indication of how they'll do. But of course, the long run test will be even better. So we'll get this up to 20 or 22 miles. But after today, man, I'm not sure this is the shoe that I would pick to do a marathon, even going, I don't know, 2:45. I'm not sure. I ran my last marathon at what, 2:49, and I'm not sure if this is the shoe that I would use for going sub 250. Again, I think for most people, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 is probably going to be a better choice. It's more comfortable, but I do get the draw of this firmer foam, feels faster, feels more aggressive, a little bit lighter weight. But I'm just in a phase of training right now where I'm gravitating a little bit more towards comfortable shoes, both for my everyday training, and that's why I love the Hoka Skyward X. It's a super comfortable shoe that can also go fast. And I think I might even take that shoe for if I were gonna do a 2:55 marathon during training again. I might take that shoe over this shoe. This shoe really forces you to go fast, and in my cycle of training right now and the way that I'm approaching these race shoes, I'm preferring a little bit more comfort for the marathon distance over speed. And that's why when I did the Alpha Fly versus Sky Paris comparison, is the Sky Paris a little bit faster? Is it a little bit better at getting you up on your toes and having a lightweight Hornet-like feel? Probably, but the Alpha Fly has a little bit more stability and felt a little bit more comfortable underfoot. Definitely not the most comfortable shoe on the market by any means, but between those two was the more comfortable choice. And so Saucony Endorphin Elite, super similar to the Sky Paris in that it's that light, fast shoe, but you're gonna get more stability and a little bit of a firmer feel. So I wanna do more testing with this shoe for this 10-mile tempo. It worked well for the fast pace. I wasn't as fast as last week in the Rocket X2, but definitely not a bad shoe, but just not hitting for me in terms of what I'm looking for right now. I want something that's a little bit more comfortable and cushioned. I'm thinking Rocket X2 is just the sweet spot. Shout out to my guy, Brian Smith. So that's all I have for you today, guys, down here. Let's hit the office really quickly to do that Durometer test. What should we call this one? It's purple and it's red. And it's got some iridescence. Purple and red, I don't know. Is it the Dirty Sprite shoe? It's got the purple gradient. DS2? Maybe we'll call this the DS2. I'll have to think on it. I serve the bass, I serve the bass. So maybe I'll do a full breakdown between CLOX1 and Endorphin Elite, but this was just so much more comfortable for me. The Cielo X1, so much softer underfoot. Of course, it's 50 grams heavier, but man, this was a soft, bouncy ride. I didn't feel like I had to go super fast to get the most benefit out of it. Endorphin Elite, if this were the first carbon fiber plated racing shoe, this is what I was thinking on mile one. If this were the first carbon fiber plated racing shoe that I tried, I might not ever run in a carbon fiber plated racing shoe again. And I was going at a 640 pace, and I knew that as I got faster in the run, the shoe would feel better. But man, at that's a 640 pace is what, that's a 255 marathon pace. At that pace for me, this shoe did not feel good. I would take any of these other shoes. Yes, even the Adidas Adios Pro, which wasn't my favorite on the first run, but at that 255 pace for me, I would take the Adios Pro over the Endorphin Elite. And so maybe the foam will soften up, or I'll come to like it during the 20-mile long run, but dude, you got to be ripping. Man, if this is what you have to run in to be fast, I don't know if I want to be fast. Alright guys, so last little thing here, quick durometer test so we can see how firm is this puppy. Truly, how firm is this puppy? So durometer test, this goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and 0 means it's soft, super soft, 100 means it's super firm. Now foams are typically between 30 and 50. 30 is around 32 is the lowest foam I've tested. New Balance Fresh Foam X in the 1080 V13, and then 52 is the firmest. Let's see. So we're clocking in at a 47 in the heel. And let's check the forefoot. Can you see that? It's not focused. 45 in the forefoot. Let's check the bottom. It's usually a little bit softer in the bottom. No, it's firmer. That's the truest test right there, the bottom. 51 in the bottom. Let's check the Zoom X for a little comparison here, guys. So Zoom X on the bottom. And it feels like the Zoom X and the Alphafly isn't super as soft as the Vaporfly maybe. Yeah, we're getting 47 in the bottom of the Zoom X here. Let's check the Power and PB and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. Lot softer, 43 versus 52. And then Cielo X1, let's do a little test here. 44. So it seems that softer PIBA is in the low mid 40s, and then the firm, super firm. This might be the firmest racing foam on the market. Maybe I'll have to do that comparison. Maybe I'll do that durometer test in one of the long run videos, but we don't have time for it today. We gotta get back to work, baby. But firmest racing shoe on the market, Saucony Endorphin Elite. Shout out to all my hobby joggers out there. Go in, put in that work, hit the Slack, hit the Zoom, hit the messages. Shout out to Microsoft Teams. If you're working on the Microsoft Teams, I feel bad for you, but man, whatever tech you got, let's go. Google Meet, we out here. By the way, guys, one more thing. The black and white coffee finally got here. We got the Diego Horta, the anaerobic natural process. You know I love that anaerobic natural. Got the tasting notes, the black plum, tropical raspberry chocolate. On the funky end of the spectrum, light roast from Colombia. Fire, straight fire. Made the Chemex this morning. We're going to have to get the little pour over for some afternoon Zoom calls and editing action. Let's go, baby. Good job, black and white. Putting in that work. Bang. And one last thing about the shoes that I forgot to mention. So on the right one here, I did feel that something about the heel area back here, the fit wasn't completely dialed in. There was a little bit of looseness. And if you take a look at this upper, they did something unique here where they have a little bit of this structured piece coming out in the back with the Saucony logo, and then just a piece of fabric. Basically, I think the only more minimal upper than this on a race shoe is the Brooks Hyperion Max. This thing is also, oh no, this is, which one was it? Oh no, it was the Hoka Rocket X2. Yeah, this thing is pretty minimalist. You can compress it all the way down. And it was a distraction. Not super uncomfortable, but a distraction. And that's something that my guy Broken Freddy has been telling me about, which I agree with 100%. With marathon race shoes, you do not want anything that's going to distract you. You want to feel comfortable and confident. And so with the additional 5 to 10 grams that you would have gotten from a more supportive upper like they did on the Pro 4, I think that would be worth it for most runners. So that's another little downside that I forgot to mention about the Elite here. But fast shoe, fast and bouncy, just firm and not the most comfortable. So it's going to depend on what you like. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.